Good evening, everyone. Welcome to season 3, episode number 14 of the P.W.P Sessions podcast. I am your host, Noelle Figueroa. Thank you for joining me this evening. Tonight, my guest is Elliott Fant, aka Poem, and we are about to set it off with some lit conversation and lit poetry. So thank you all for your support, and let's get right into it. Now, for those of you that may not be familiar with this podcast, the P.W.P Sessions or the Poets with Purpose Sessions podcast is a podcast that I created where I interview new or established authors of poetry, and I feature a performance of their work along with an audience Q&A session. I am your host, Noelle Figueroa, poet, author, blogger, workshop facilitator, and event host, and I am the creator of the P.W.P Sessions podcast. Tonight's guest is Elliott Fant, aka Poem, and this is his bio. Elliott Fant is a Newark, New Jersey-born author, poet, publisher, and educator. Throughout his early years, Elliott developed a love for creative expression and gradually developed his poetry skills early in his adolescence. Elliott published his first collection of poetry and short stories entitled The Execution of Revolution in 2012, and then followed that effort with a second collection entitled The Long Way Home, released in September of 2013. The World as I See It is Elliott's third publication. In addition to his writing ability, Elliott has also adopted a passion for acting and has partnered with the United Youth of New Jersey for lead roles in the play productions MLK, Nightmare After the Dream, and Black Wall Street in 2016 and 2017. Elliott received a bachelor's degree in English in 2011 from Kean University and became an educator in 2013, with the basis of his work centering around the care and assistance that he provides to children and teens afflicted by behavioral disorders and developmental disabilities. He wants to become a self-sustained entrepreneur and give back to the communities that he grew up in and take that service beyond. Elliott is the founder and co-host of the urban arts event entitled Poetry in the Bricks. His passion to express the urban condition sits at the root of his work as a writer and stage performer. He wishes to address the external and internal conflicts that influence our psyche and also serve as a positive beacon who inspires his supporters to believe in themselves and tackle doubt and low self-esteem that contributes to the minimization of their potential, and particularly in urban communities. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here's Elliott Fant, aka Poem. Hey, bro, what's up? Good evening. How's it going, man?
Hey, good evening, man. How you doing, man?
Everything's good,
going
man.
going well.
That's what's up, man. Glad to hear, man. Thank you for being my guest tonight.
Yeah.
Set it off right now. So start off with a basic question. Who is Elliott Fant, aka Poem? How would you describe yourself or define yourself?
I guess there's several different things I could say, but I think the thing that for myself, and I think that ties most of us, is for me, I just want to be someone who can go through life and then one day leave this life with a sense of feeling like I left my environment, that I entered into, a lot better off, as I left it, And I think that's the goal, or what should be the goal for all of us, is that we enter into a space, and that space might be tattered and upside down, or, lacking light, lacking positivity, lacking creativity, and my presence and my contributions and helping in that environment, allows it to be a lot better than what it would have been otherwise, and that's why I do the poetry events, right there in the heart of Newark that I do. That's why I write these books. That's why I just want to be somebody, a positive agent of hope and change and progression,
Yeah, that's excellent, man. And I've been a witness to, what you have to offer firsthand, man. I totally, respect you as a poet and, event curator. You really putting yourself out there. You put in the work, and the quality of your work shows and all that you do, man. So I'm very excited to see what you're doing. You're doing big things. And, and I'm proud of you, and I'm sure many other people feel the same way. They're excited about what you're doing, your, the positive contributions you're doing to the community in terms of spoken word, is really having an impact. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
wow, it's good to see you doing your thing, but take me back to the beginning. Like, what got you started in the doing poetry?
Uh, what got me started was I think when you're young, and particularly like myself, my father was not around, not because he's a bad person or didn't want to be. I think addiction has really decimated, obviously decimated a lot of Black households and stripped fathers from their sons, strips mothers from their daughters, and I was um just another story within that greater greater pandemic, you know, that really started in the mid 80s when I was born and persisted throughout a lot of our childhoods. So I think when you get people, you know, being stripped from your lives who are important to you, then you as young Black boys, you're trying to find your sense of purpose, and you're trying to find something that makes you feel valuable and makes you feel like, hey, I can be recognized for this. I'm good at this, because you're not getting that pat on the back, in your own home environment. So for me, I mean, and for most of us, obviously, we start off wanting to play sports. Everybody think they're gonna be Jordan or Iverson or Kobe. So that's the initial thing that we pursue, is we pursue that recognition through, athletic ability and things like that. What I discovered was, and it really came through an assignment that I had for a science class. We were supposed to use vocabulary terms, um, and make a poem out of vocabulary terms that were in our science vocabulary list. So I did well at that assignment, and we had to read it in front of the class. And everybody, including the teacher, you know, thought it was really, really good. And it was the first, and that it was like a rush of adrenaline, like, and it gave me a sense of, like, this, I did something that somebody else thought was good, that somebody else thought was great, was dope, and that kind of, it uplifts you, and then it makes you want to pursue it a little bit more. So it was like from that point forward, I started a little, like, my first poetry book, where it was like a 5 composition notebook, and me and this other kid that was in my class, we both would write into this book. I wish I had that book now. I wish I would have had the foresight to find a way to not lose that book, But that's really what started me with writing poetry, was because other people, gave me props for what I was saying. Um, and that was 12 years old. And
Wow.
little by, I didn't go as I would write, but I didn't really. I still kind of kept it to myself, because it was like, unless you were a rapper, like, people weren't really looking. They looked at poetry as Tupac, as Nas, but when you get into Langston Hughes, when you get into, like, Maya Angelou, that stuff wasn't popular. And when you're young, you don't want to be looked at as a clown, or as soft, or like, and I grew up in East Orange. Uh so if I told my friends I was writing poetry or whatever, now I'm gonna have to be in the fight just because I like to, and they looked at it as, you soft, So it wasn't something that was even a beautiful thing amongst my peers, but it was something that I knew I can do well, and I knew I can do it really well, real early.
Mm. That's what's up. That's what's up. Now, do you like once you had that experience in that classroom that gave you that spark? Like, do you recall the first subjects that you started writing about?
Uh, Shoot, whatever 12 and 13-year-olds go through, body changes, trying to talk to girls, that was really the extent of my poetic content at
Wow.
12 years old. You know, um, my small lens view on the world around me, that's kind of what but wasn't necessarily the content. My challenge and what I still enjoy about writing is I look at writing as putting a puzzle together, and I do a lot of like rhymed poetry where timing and intercoupling of lines, to kind of give you that sound and kind of create that melodic type flow. That's what I always excelled at, and that's what I always strive to do with the poetry. It was more like, and in that way, it did give off a hip hop type of vibe with the rhyming and everything like that. But wanting to get out of hat, cat, bat, sat type rhyming, but more into like assonance type rhyming.
Mhm.
I can always do that really well. But then obviously as you get older and you see the world and you have different experiences, now it opens up your content base a lot more. And here I am in this form.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I see we have Crimson Red joining us. Love and peace to you, Crimson Red. Thank you for tuning in tonight. She's a fellow poet as well.
Okay, awesome.
Now, what would you say is your motivation to write? Now, you mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, more or less essentially based upon that experience you had in that classroom, you felt a sense of validation and purpose, when you got, that reaction to that very first poem that you tackled. Would you say that's one of the reasons? And if so, like what other reasons in addition to that would be your reasons for, or what other reasons give you motivation to write?
Writing for me is therapy. It's self-talk. It's when you feel like there are people who can't understand things that you've gone through and or going through, I transcribe that stuff into stories.
Mhm.
And I like to tell stories that I feel like many people within my immediate environment were being afflicted by, people within the African diaspora were being afflicted by, and to leave a record. I think the older I've gotten, I realize, I mean, none of us are going to cheat death, but what we can do is leave a record, of our thoughts. And if those thoughts are strong enough, deep enough, impactful enough, it could spark, a brain or spark something that can help push the next generation forward, with the seeds that you plant in your own life. And that's what makes literature very powerful. That's why you can have a Langston Hughes and his work be just as pertinent and relevant today, even though it was written 60, 70 years ago.
Mhm.
And that's that for me. If my spirit and my attitude was I want to live forever, I said I could live forever through this, by planting these seeds and telling these stories and allowing other people to look at those stories and say, hey, I can totally relate to that. Or they can say, hey, I never even looked at this situation or this, perspective is much different than anything that I ever thought of myself. And that's the power and beauty of literature of all kinds, not just poetry, but any style. You're able to leave a record of your thoughts, so that you can echo from the dirt and somebody else can take that and pluck it like a flower, in their own life. And or maybe it gives them hope, or maybe it gives them a sense of purpose, or maybe it unlocks that ambition for themselves. Then you can feel good about your contribution to mankind that way.
Yes, that's what's up. I'm in full agreement with that because it's leaving a legacy. Like you said, Langston Hughes, he's been long gone, but his work is still relevant. Maya Angelou been long gone, but her work still speaks. And when we as poets and authors, when we put our stuff on paper, we're leaving a legacy. Like you said, we're leaving a record for those that come after us. To get an idea of who we are and the times that we are in now to help them navigate where they are to propel them into their future. That's what's
Yeah.
up. And in the chat, Cynthia, aka Crimson Red, she says a record that becomes historical context for others to glean from. It's history becoming, and that's absolutely correct.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
No
And
doubt,
that's,
no doubt.
you know, I didn't realize how many people, my mother was murdered when I was 2. My father, really crippled by drug addiction after she got killed. He pretty much, the man he was, died along with her. So I didn't have either one of them. My grandmother's raised me. I grew up, drug raids, DEA busting in our house, uh, fights out in the street, gangs, and I'm trying to make sense of everything that's around me that it just felt like I didn't even have a decision to be, a part of. I just was thrust into it, and this is what my surroundings are. And no one to talk to and no way to make sense of it, but to put it down on paper and to paint a picture for others, that became something that was important to me. And then when I began to see that, okay, beyond just writing this as a hobby or writing this as a form of therapy to myself, I can become an author. Because that being an author or writing books, that was like something in Neptune somewhere. I did, like we wrote, but we never looked at it as something that we could sell or that somebody would buy.
Right.
And I got that. I started getting that feeling about it when I went to the military. That was the first time that I had people who they were not black, because a lot of the people that I was in a boot camp with, they're from Middle America. They're from Oklahoma, Minnesota. Our boot camp was in Illinois, so a lot of people that were, that were deployed with me and everything like that, for them to look at it and see value in it. Now it's not just a black thing, it's a human thing. And the poetry that I write, is being looked at as this is something that's for all people, even though they may not have lived my experiences, the humanity and the way that I'm describing and depicting this stuff was really moving people, in a forward direction. And that's when I started saying maybe I could make a living from this, or at least supplement my income with this. And that's when I started pursuing and figuring out how to become an author.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's up. That's what's up. Who or what would you give credit to as far as helping you develop your skills as a writer?
Oh man, it's just too many to name. Whether through poetry, the poetry of Eldridge Cleaver, or the hip hop of Anas, I pull from everybody who I could read and listen to and say, wow, I like how they put that together. Like Nas is my favorite hip hop MC, but it wasn't even his popular songs that would inspire a lot of my writing. Like he had a song. He said, "I used to worship a certain Queen Police murderer. Then I heard the words of Ivan Van Sertima. He inserted something in me that made me feel worthier. Now I spit revolution. I'm his hood interpreter." That was from a song called "We're Not Alone" off the Untitled album, in 2009. But not one of his more popular songs that people know. But you don't hear MCs talking about Ivan Van Sertima.
Right, exactly. That's
Because
next.
I knew who Ivan Van Sertima was and I had read him. I was like, the fact that he used, or and the Queens Police murderer that he was talking about was Pappy Mason, the gentleman who ran with the Supreme Team crew, who shot the police officer in his head while he was sitting in his patrol car in '88. So he said he started off by saying, "I used to worship a certain Queens police murderer until I read the words of Ivan Van Sertima." So it's saying that a lot of the flack that hip hop takes or rap takes for lacking depth in this day and time, he was one of those artists that transcended that and that put those historical references and people, in his poetry, and that was a positive influence on me. And then you get to the rugged, poetry of an Elvis Cleaver, or You read, Blood in My Eye. You read George Jackson. Read, Soledad Brother. You read I use all of that stuff. Monster, Cody Scott. All of these people in a way, kind of refine my content and what I wanted to say, within my lyrics. My first and best poetic influence by far was Gil Scott Heron,
Mm.
by far.
Yes, yes.
And I was the only 12 or 13-year-old kid. Black kid. I would think anywhere listening to Gil Scott Heron. It started because my uncle, who was a rabbit historian, almost to the point of contention, because he would try to like push, that stuff onto me and tell me that, because I would listen to other MCs and he would listen to stuff I would listen to, and he would be like, you listen to this crap, these dudes in here talking about the N word and da 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 da. This is who you should be listening to. So he had this is Gil Scott's 1994 record, Spirits. He had that, and he had it on vinyl. And we were in Virginia because he was living in Virginia at the time. I called him Uncle, but he was actually my grandmother's boyfriend. But I called him Uncle Bob. And he played this record, and he played this song called Message to the Messengers, which was like still, like, if you go back and listen to that song, look up that song on Spotify, whatever. It's a really deep song that's talking about the responsibility, that the transition between our generation and generations prior, and how this new generation has a responsibility that's far greater, to protect the legacy and the history and all the things that the last generation set in place for us, through their suffering and everything. But that song is really deep. It's called Message to the Messengers.
Mhm.
And it's a song, obviously he wrote it in the early 90s, but you could play that song today and it's really telling the story of what, rap is currently and how we're getting away from that. It's a quote that said, I used to listen to hip hop to get closer to the truth. Now today I listen to hip hop to get further away from it. And I said, you know what? I want to be the antithesis of that premise, that we're getting farther away from the truth with the things that we have to say. I wanted to be somebody who got closer to what was actually going on with whatever it was I was talking about.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
And
But
definitely.
he's the first poet that I ever listened to.
Mm.
Because I wasn't even really the Maya Angelou Langston Hughes at the time, but Gil Scott Heron. And it's different times, so it's hard for any young kid to relate to that because it's just not them. That's not where they're at. But as you start to juxtapose the late 60s, early 70s, and then you look at the late 90s, 2000s, you start to be able to see a lot of similarities, even though the characters were different within that story. It's the same premise going on.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that we have control over. And we can exercise that control and use our creativity, to broaden that, and I just wanted to be one of them people.
Yeah, that's what's up. And like they say, the more things change, the more they stay the same. But when you have poetry or rap that's really speaking to the times, even years later, like you said, it still finds a way to be relevant to now, where if you really take the time to dive into it, you'll be able to get where it's coming from. And that's the power of words right there. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of power of words, I don't know if y'all could see this because I think my background is bold, but I think I got an
No.
angle. There we go. All right, y'all, ladies and gentlemen, this is The World as I See It by Elliott Fant, aka Poem. Bro, I haven't even finished reading this yet, and it's already off the chain from what I've read so far. You know what I mean? It's just incredible. I mean, not just the poetry, but the way you put it together, like the pictures, the graphics, the whole thing from cover to cover, bro. It's phenomenal, man. Glad I was able to support you. Congratulations on this project. Can you share with our audience how this project came about?
Back in 2018, 2018, I hadn't wrote a book in a long time. I had been like traveling, doing my poetry on stage and things like that. I had been in a couple plays that did well. Um, and I was like, it's been about 5 years since I put a book out. And I started thinking I didn't want to be one of the people that was just writing books and putting books out just to say, oh, I'm an author, or just to say, oh, see, I wrote a book. I really wanted to concentrate on what I really wanted to say. And what was going on, obviously, is, 2018, 2019, then obviously the summer of 2020, where we were just in complete state of civil unrest on top of dealing with COVID. I wanted to mix together different subject matter, dealing with our outside environment, dealing with ourselves and what we're dealing with internally, dealing with gender, dealing with race. I didn't want to have just one centralized theme, but I did want to talk about a lot of the things that were going on at that time, going on, racially, going on as far as black man versus black woman, which I'm starting to see, is becoming more of a toxic discussion that people, are partaking in about, who's more responsible, who hurt each other more, 50-50 on bills, and, like all this other stuff that people are talking about. Then I want to talk about the part of us, because whether it's white man, white woman, black woman, kid, whatever, it all starts with the things that we've internalized as truth. You know what I'm saying? And what we internalize in truth, has taken our perspective and pushed it, to places where, that it may be more vitriolic, and not actually what the truth really is about ourselves, other people, the world around us. So that whole title, "The World as I See It," is really just something to talk about our vantage point. Our vantage points. Our vantage points is black men, black women, white men, white women, white, black, black man, woman debate, whatever. It's really just talking about our vantage points and how our vantage points have gotten to this place. Why we think the way we do. And it's really just a referendum on, thinking critically and really checking our perspective to see how that perspective has been manipulated and molded into what it is currently, based on, where we're at now, civilly, socially, and everything else.
All right, right. That's what's up. And what has the response been to this specific project so far? Like what kind of comments have you gotten?
I got a lot of positive feedback. I knew, I mean, and really making the graphics for the book, and sometimes, and I know this for myself personally, because I could say that early on, I wasn't a heavy reader, especially reader of like what I consider to be old, antiquated text. Because I just felt like, it just never appealed to me. So I said, now if I'm gonna be somebody that's now writing books, you gotta write in a way, because I could write in a way to kind of go real deep, and so deep that you may lose people,
Right.
and it may even take like 5 or 10 minutes with the book because it's just too over their heads,
Yeah.
and like they can relate to it, and you can just put those thoughts on white paper, and then what happens is if you got a 200-page book, somebody may sit with that book for like a couple days and read maybe 15 pages of it, and just because of how life is, attention spans very limited, quick information, social media. When reading was really popular, there wasn't wasn't really that much stuff for reading to compete with. When reading was popular in the 50s is because there's no social media, like you probably no TV yet.
Right. No distractions.
Yeah. So then like people were happy to read because it's like, what else was there to do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Nowadays you compete with all this different stuff. So in order to get somebody to read, especially the the audience with which this book is targeted, which I would say the target audience for me with this book is maybe from 18 to 30,
Mhm.
you know. Although it's something in it for people much older too. But that's my target. That's why I want to get, and touch young men and young women and young people, you know. But I knew, I'm like, well, how am I going to get somebody to sit and stay with the book for longer than 15, 20 minutes? And that's where I said, you know what, I want to put these images and tie in these images to these stories that keep people captivated and want to turn the page and want to actually read the book. So I did a lot of the photography. My partner, Jonathan Cutler, did a phenomenal job with this book. We shot videos for the book, like the opening page. I think the second poem in there is a poem called Devil's Advocate. We
Mhm.
actually shot a video that's on YouTube for that. And that was a phenomenal project. My most popular piece in the book is the piece about my father, me and my father's relationship, called The You and Me. And that's gonna be the next thing that I shoot a video for. But
Mhm.
that's always gotten a great reception when I perform it on stage. But I knew, I'm like, if you're gonna really, really make people sit with this, you're gonna want them to kind of be captivated and awe-inspired through the graphics, and allow the graphics to make them want to read the words. So that was really my strategy with but I knew in doing that and doing it the way I want to do it, it's gonna cost a lot of money. And that's another thing with people that are trying to be authors. A lot of them, a lot of us are afraid to put something out that we put our money into and then have it not do well.
Right.
But then it just becomes a waste of money. And a lot of people don't got money to waste like that. So they don't want to put up $5,000, $6,000, for a project. Because then if the books don't sell, you just ate that loss,
Right.
So, but I knew I didn't mind putting it up. I saved my money up for money not to be an issue so that I can do the book entirely the way I wanted to do it and make it look the way it needed to look.
Right. Well, bro, it's definitely a standout. The fact that the graphics alone gets your attention, and then the fact that it's a hardcover, what I mean, even more so adds to the attention grabbing
Yeah.
factor. What I mean, it definitely stands out when you see it on a shelf in a bookstore or wherever. What I mean, it definitely grabs you.
The first thing people see is the horns. And unless you turn the book around, you don't see the halo until you turn the book around. So the first thing you see is the horn. So then, which kind of it stands out, but then it stands out in the sense with people who are Christians, like what is this supposed to mean? Is this demonic? Is this people just quick to run with anything instead of asking me the question. They'll
Right.
just run with, oh, this must be this or this must be that.
Right.
Really, the halo and the horn thing that I did with the cover, which that wasn't even supposed to be the original thing that I did. It was supposed to have an outer cover on it, which I'm still gonna do,
Mhm.
and, as a part of my special edition release, which
Right.
I'm pushing like for late spring with that. That special edition copies of this book, which will
Right.
have a different cover. Um, it's really speaking on the duality of man, and it's really speaking on the parts of us that strive to do well and be good people, but that are constantly pulled and pushed by the side of society that breaks us down, and puts us in less than stellar positions where we have to make where we feel like we have to make decisions that go against the true nature of ourselves.
Mhm.
So that whole premise of Halo Horn, I think we're born generally being non-judgmental. We're born being loving, caring, kind. What changes us? And that's where that duality, that juxtaposition of both of those things, that's why I really did the covers that way. Because I think we're all born, aspiring to be well, do well, live well, and treat our fellow human being well. But the conditions in which we have to survive under turns us into cutthroat individuals.
Mhm.
And that's across racial lines, that's across interracial lines, gender lines. You know, I think there's a lot of men out there that want to be good men. And a lot of them may have learned how to be bad men from bad women or
Right.
bad men. Then there's a lot of women out there who want to be good women. They were taught how to be something else by bad men, bad women. You know, so that's why it's so important. You know, I say all the time, you know, the greatest contribution we can make to the world is how our actions help others perceive it. That's the greatest contribution that we can make to the world. If we treat somebody like crap, or we hurt somebody, they may carry that the rest of their lives, and then they may end up hurting people
Right.
because of it. And that's how you get a world and a social climate that looks the way it looks. There's a bunch of hurt people, you know what I'm saying, who wanted to be something else, but their trust and their spirit was broken by somebody else whose trust and spirit was broken. So it just becomes a big nexus that we all are intermingled in.
So, and it's true. And I'm glad you brought that up, because my next question is concerning representation. Now, you've heard that word representation thrown around in various different circles for various different reasons. But when
Yeah.
it comes to you, in terms of who you are and your writing, how important is it to you that you're representing yourself in your totality through your work? You know, whether you're talking about, you know, your experiences as a Black man, everything that makes you who you are, race, religion, if it applies to you, all of your life experiences, all the things that make you who you are. How important is it to you that you're representing yourself in your totality through your work?
Well, it's essential. If you don't tell your story, somebody will misinterpret your silence, misinterpret your noise, misinterpret whatever they want to misinterpret. Or they'll insert their story as your story. So you gotta step out in front of everything first and say, no, 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 I'm not gonna, this is how it is. And this is what's happened to me. And this is how it's impacted me. And you gotta be clear and strong in the delivery of that, because people are quick to, especially with Black people, they quick to judge, somebody outside of our race, and even some within
Yeah.
our race, but from different stations within our race. You get an affluent Black person who'll insert, what they think about a Black person living beneath the poverty line.
Mhm.
They'll say, oh, they ain't where they need to be because they lazy. But they don't know exactly why you at where you at.
Exactly.
So it's very important to stand, up for yourself and, be the foremost architect of, how you're perceived, because a lot of people ain't even taking the time to even get the story straight. We live in a soundbite video clip world. That's what we exist in now. Sound bites, video clips, one sentence out of a 3-page article that becomes the entirety of that article, and then it goes viral. And then people can just take, based on this little bit of information, this tidbit or this video clip, this soundbite, we come up and architect a whole truth without even having been there. That's the society we live in. So even if you stand up and tell your own story, you're still going to get that. So let alone if you don't tell your own story,
Right.
you're going to have a lot of people inserting whatever they want to insert into it, and it becomes a big game of telephone, So
That's facts.
yeah.
Yep. That's straight up facts. And that provides the perfect segue to our next segment, because now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for Elliott Fant, aka Poem, to take the mic. Now, sir, at this time, I'm going to give you some space to do up to 5 poems of your choosing to give our audience an idea of who you are and what your writing is all about. So at this time, the floor is yours.
All right. I'll read a couple things from the book and a couple things that's going to be in the next book. The next two books, in the last stages of that writing process, and those will probably be. I'm hoping to have them done by next fall, early next winter. So I may recite a couple of those things, and I'll recite a couple from the book. I just decided I was going to pick whatever page it fell on first. So I'll go with this. Fighting life's wear and tear, squared off with despair, big as a bear on top of me, fighting, but my reach can't stretch further than that of the air, fighting battles for which I'm eternally unprepared, fighting an ex's disappointed glare, she expels me from her cares, affirming ideas that misery is not best in pairs, impaired vision insists the coalition of misery and company is not rare, fighting biting insecurities, working hard in gyms and offices, bringing home bacon to find I'm still expendable there, easily replaceable like a chair, beware the things you do for those who claim they care, fighting a judge's judgmental stare, would feel better if I were a silhouette made of air, heart hanging in the balance, the challenge to not let my sense of self be valued with scorecards by those with frayed wires for hair, fighting, time skewing the playing field in its favor, leaving many bitter with like liver with no flavor. Yeah, fighting is inevitable, fighting for peace, fighting for love, fighting for happiness, respect, fulfillment, and all of the above, fighting, fighting insecurities, working hard in gyms and offices. How many empty pats on the back can my back bear? Beware the gloves you lace and the lumps you take for those who claim they care. Fighting. I scream at night, punch walls till my knuckles are covered in blood. You didn't notice? I drifted into a dark place when we were talking last. Since then, my demeanor hasn't budged, consumed with anger and disappointment. Peroxide smeared across open wounds, back bent under the weight of my belief that I am not good enough, teetering on tightrope, balancing act between lies and facts. People tell, seems like lies prevail, slave to the bullshit I smell. No worse hell than someone asking me how I'm doing, but I withhold my answer so their day won't be ruined, chewing my tongue in my mouth, numbing feeling of resentment, pressure to not be a Debbie Downer keeps my lips from ungluing. God forbid something real slips out. Thought I'd have a family by 30, but apparently I'm not worthy of any woman with intent to not hurt me. Never the type to poke arms with spikes or sit in bars, slurring frustration under the stars. I pack it all in. Every lie I've been told by every self-serving family member and friend, every woman who constantly wasted my time should know my time is at an end. Sick of playing bullshit games, sick of being robbed of what's rightfully mine. With chills up my spine, I close the blinds, rewind. All that plays in my mind are images of me giving more and receiving less. I failed this test. Confess, I'm not big enough to handle stress. I blow the candle out, whisper to myself, I did my best. I pull the trigger, the gun jams. I squeeze again, it blows the pieces in my hands. Unsettling reminder, I wasn't built to take the easy way out. Your God had other plans. Suicide. Suicide. Let's see. Let's find it. Tight with me, guys. Okay, here we go. Great. Since way back, they stripped and broke identities. Black became a color estranged. Now, for like 40 years, self-extermination is taught to be on the brain. Cue the gangs, cue the drugs and gold chains. In our ego, more than ever, we've invested, manifested more for the years our manhood was tested. Since cotton fields, the pillar of family yields as his wife is dragged off and raped in plain sight, his daughter molested. He stands with clenched fist, lips sealed, taking heed to what elders suggested. In front of ancestral eyes, they all watch as massa unties not from family ties. No bandage big enough to cover the wound, no mop to soak up the blood before it dries. Black man emasculated, the choice he contemplated, hang from tree or hang from his own shame and misery. 400 years later, being a black man still isn't free. Free. All right. You want us? You can expect in the next manuscript. We crawl. Black and unassuming, we lift 10,000 times our weight. We are America's lingering mistake. They brought us here to be slaves. Their two eyes watched us become great. We trenched through concrete terrain, dodging boots and knees. 100 years after running from rope and trees, we climb up bark, carrying food through dark. We small, but got heart. Our blood in the air. They kill one of us, but another one is there. They push to get rid of us, but we are everywhere. We are very rare in cell cuff or electric chair. We march militia style. Small became big after a while. We soldiers, single file through dope and freebase vow in ghetto buildings, abandoned now, but never a project roach. We first class fly, never coach. One eternal, once we change our mental approach, walk right over by drunken feet, but we sober, defeat their elite mentality. That lie is over. History repeats until black ants swarm presidential electoral seats, bust down door and pour reparation receipts on floor. A few of us crushed, but not enough to stop the bum rush that's coming, turning Mace's maggots to dust. Our body armor, black coat, black hope, mental trauma. Our shield reminding America redefining, redesigning, statues ripped from Mother Earth's lining. Perfect timing. We coming through cracks in America's walls. We the shit not flushed down the stall. They put knee on our neck, but they can't squash us all, black ant. From under rock we crawl to the surface, staying tall, we coming, turning racist maggots to dust. We stomping BS out, even against those amongst us. We lift 10,000 times our weight, our strength, rooted in faith, erased from text, the white hoods that wrote our fate. Black ant, they push to get rid of us, but we are everywhere. We are very rare, be it in cell cuff or electric chair. We, black ants, black ants. And this is the one I was telling everybody about earlier. Actually, I know what I'll do instead of doing that. She tells me how great I am. Then she tells me I'm not compatible with her. Cops and kin alike see me as a monster in front of their trigger. Friends I grew up with shake my hand and call me their nigga. Bosses and executive directors see me as a cog to help their fortune grow bigger. Because of people fighting their own reflections, I see myself 100 different ways in the mirror. You looked at me and saw debris on the floor, wrote my name in lowercase letters and underscores. To gain respect from you was equivalent to fighting a war. You killed my confidence every time. Mocked and maligned my every rhyme. Asked you to come to a reading. You sarcastically declined, exclaimed, it isn't a fair exchange of your time. I published books. You snickered. How you gonna make money from that? You drove right past as pouring rain choked the shirt on my back. I ran for years from your spiritual and psychological attacks. You had me confused for this long, asking myself, aren't you black? Let's see. What's a poet without poetry? What is earth without space? What is a crack addict without freebase? What is a mistake written down that you can't erase? What is a man with no face or tongue? What is a game played that can never be lost or won? What's the solar system with no sun? What is no better than or less than? What is America if all is equal? What's a poet without poetry? What's the city of Newark without the people? What's a poet without poetry? What is a person who can never recollect, or someone who fights futilely for respect? With no words or message, perhaps they become a needle with nothing to inject. What's a poet without poetry? Without poetry. I see you building and growing, poking yourself through your cocoon. I see the resurrection of your reputation towards something positive soon. I see you radiant skin shimmering. A few are proud to say they're now a resident here where all the cool kids stay. I saw you lay out your carpet. When did the hood become a runway? Elegant and chill. I see the true nature of what you are that outside accounts don't want revealed. I envision the sum of your opposition lessened and your hard exterior peeled. See the city for what it can be. Treat it like a jewel, not just downtown, but over by Grove and West Side too. Treat the people like they haven't committed crimes yet. Treat our present like it's not our future. Treat our potential with more respect. See this city for what it can be. then work shoulder to shoulder and reinvent for North, for North, for North. It's my last one. My last one here. Skin is a shell. What prevails is our spell and the story it tells. We derail, break love in half with discipline so frail, lust leaving a fragmented trail. Lust and love in comparison pale. We failed in primary awe of a shell. The cause of her hell, her need to be lusted. Enlisted by lizards she passed, they disgusted. She got home and showered, feeling disgusted. Betrayed by every lie she trusted, who said they loved her as they thrusted. Got up and got gone when a volcano erupted. Got up and got gone with her innocence abducted. But soon the vanity had her vision obstructed. Bad bitch syndrome, validation syndrome, attention syndrome. A mother waiting for a mother to come home. A daughter in a crib while her mother takes pictures on phone, trying to recruit a new daddy because her daughters ain't home. Lust and love in comparison pale. Skin is a shell. What prevails is our spell and the story it tells. Our need to be lusted, the cause of our hell. Our confidence entrusted to those who tell to say that they touched it. The love you've been waiting for is always yours, sister, but don't rush it. Skin. Yeah.
Yo, bars, 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 nothing but bars, man. Feeling that completely, man. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the Lit Poetics from Elliott Fant, aka Poem, bro. That's some fire material right there, bro. Appreciate you coming through and sharing, man. Lit Poetics, no question. Thank you,
I
thank you.
appreciate you.
All right, y'all. Now we're gonna shift gears for these next few minutes because we're gonna take a moment to do a brief Q&A. So at this time, I want to shout out for the moment Cynthia, aka Crimson Red. Do you have a question or comment for Poem?
What up, what up, what up?
What up, what up? How you doing? How you doing?
How you doing, sir?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
You don't even understand. He told me you were coming on. I got excited.
I appreciate you, yo. I
Sir,
appreciate it.
Fedora love, sir. Yes, I understand. You're from Newark?
Yeah, from North New Jersey.
Big ups for Newark.
Yeah.
I am in love with that piece of artwork that you had behind you while you were doing your interview. I was torn between listening to the interview and admiring the artwork. Where did you get that piece from? It's awesome.
Oh man, one of my favorite people. He was living with me. He just moved out a few weeks ago. But one of my favorite people and another, huge influence, artistically for me is the brother Terrence Grimsley. He's the owner, creator of Poor King Art. All throughout the city of Newark. If you've driven around Newark, you'll see like a face with a crown on it, spray painted on the walls, and that's how it started off for me. Was seeing this art all around the city, and I'm like, oh, who is this? What is this guy? Who is this person? Because I'm a huge fan of art, but I thought it was just a brilliant, simple, powerful, rendering. And I actually met him in 2013. I was actually going to get a logo done because I was at the time I was trying to get a clothing line started, and I needed somebody to draw a company logo for me. So my friend, who was a guy I went to college with, was working in the same art space as Terrence. And that's how I met him.
Well, that's wonderful, and big congratulations. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm having visual video issues right now with my Zoom.
Oh, okay.
My Zoom is not being my friend right now.
Okay.
Okay, just give me. I'm trying to get back on here. Oh Jesus, here we go. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it just the way it is because I can't seem to get back. When are you going to be doing some more pieces?
Well, I have an event coming up on February 17th, which is 2 days after my birthday, for this event called Evolu Culture, which is a poetic collective group that I'm a part of, run by a friend of mine named Sean Battle. We do our shows at this place called the Vino Winery, which is like right there, downtown Newark, off of Halsey Street. If you're interested in attending, let me know and I can definitely shoot you the information. So that's February 17th. This Saturday, upcoming the 3rd, I'll be at Newark Local Beer for a photo exhibit being run by my friend Lawrence Crane, and I'll be performing there as well. So those are the next 2 I have going. I just completed a book signing last Saturday. I did another book signing prior to that on December 23rd. February 23rd also, now that it came to my mind, I'll be doing a Black History Month event, which, will be taking place at Irvington Library in Irvington, New Jersey. So those are the next 3 that I have coming up. And I'm still trying to, put together even more of an itinerary going through March and into the spring. The spring is really going to be when I start to really, really move with the, book fairs and, different things like that, festivals. So from April through August is really the time to really get out in public and sell your merchandise and perform and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to that.
You sound you can have a very extensive itinerary for the coming months and everything. I'm gonna get the book.
Oh,
I saw the cover of it, and I think you did have I think you said a front cover where you had the whole, and
This
was all
the
together.
front cover got the horns on it, so I've been having to answer a lot of questions about that until they turn the book around. Yeah,
until they turned the book around. But I guess when I saw it, if you will, when I looked at it, I saw the split screen, if you will, of both. You had the ear, I'm sorry, the ears, the horns, and the halo. I said, well, that's fire. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I was trying to find something that I'd never seen nobody do on their cover. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that with the book cover.
With that cover. That is for sure.
That's facts. I haven't seen it either. That
I
definitely
haven't seen that. I've seen variations of that.
Yeah.
But
I want to do something.
Not with the impact that it if impact was what you were looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does it.
Absolutely.
And I was telling you, it's important when you're competing, and I don't like to use the word competing because we're all out here just we have merchandise. But when you have, you be at festivals and it's literally like maybe 200, 300 vendors that might be out at these events. So they're looking at a lot of books. They're going to everybody's table and looking at what they have. You have to stand out. You have to.
True.
And if you just that's why I said it's very important, even if it means you have to save for a couple of years to really, get the money that you need to make your book really look the way you want it to look, then don't rush anything though, or don't shortchange your project because you're scared of taking a loss if it doesn't sell. Because if it's something that isn't put together as best as you can put it together, it'll probably not end up selling anyway.
I tend to agree with you on that, because
really invest in your work, and make it look like something.
Yes, because if your work does speak for you, it should, in my observation. And I'm just thankful for your word, your spoken word abilities. I call you a spoken word griot. I don't know if you saw it, the writing that I had posted in the chat about, each one of us who step out, we are storytellers.
Oh, yes. We are.
Our trials and tests that we go through, the experiences, the sum of our experiences make us poetic griots. We get to tell the stories that maybe somebody might not be willing to tell because they might not be in that space. But when we use the gift of our ability to take the words that we use and create sentences to paint a picture, somebody is going to catch the vibe of what we're saying.
there'll be a lot of people say, Elliott, you've had a hard life because your mother got killed, got murdered very early on. Because of what happened with your father. I've had friends murdered. I had a friend kill another friend in front of us, in front of all of us. I was
Wow.
16, maybe 17 years old when that happened. You've seen addicts all over the place. You had a family full of addicts, alcoholics. People die, from this stuff. And you had a hard life, life is hard, but what breaks my heart is people that have had even worse. Like for whatever I've gone through, I'm still here. And for whatever I've gone through, I've become an author. I graduated college. I went to the military. But whatever it is I've seen and dealt with, there's been a lot of good too. I know people where there was absolutely no good. They didn't graduate college. There was nobody to speak up for them, to stand up for them, and they couldn't articulate what they had gone through themselves. And that's who I write for, and that's who I speak for. I'm speak for myself because I found a way to make a way with everything that I had to deal with. There's a lot of people that don't even have that luxury. And for those people, is where, I write for the people who are too poor to waste eggs on Halloween. Like they couldn't even throw eggs and stuff
Yes.
because like, I don't
Yes.
know, my mom kicked my
Yes.
ass off some eggs. Like, I write for those people, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
because, as bad as I've had, I always try to keep a balanced perspective. As bad as I think I've had it or do have it or will have it, there's always, somebody doing a lot worse. And, and that keeps me balanced. It keeps me from complaining too much about my own life and experiences, is having that understanding.
Thank you very much for sharing your life's work, continuing, because I know you have more there. And I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions.
Yes, ma'am. It's honor and privilege.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia, aka Crimson Red. Always a pleasure to have you come through. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, bro. Before we close out, bro, here's a question for you. If you could collaborate with anybody, living or deceased, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a doozy of a question. Collaborate poetically, you mean?
Yes.
Man, that's tough. Let me think about that, and I'm gonna text you that answer tomorrow. I can't even narrow that down. I mean, Gil Scott-Heron would be the obvious.
Yeah.
There's so many people. There's so many people that hip hop has been my life. It really has been my life, and my love of music is my life. Music. I don't know what I would do without music. So there's so many people that can. I mean, on the hip hop side alone, I mentioned Nas, but Rakim, but the people that my father and uncle used to listen to, I listen to them too to understand, or try to get a reference point of what they were listening to at their age and how it was shaped compared to that generation. So there's so many people I can pull from, so many jazz musicians, John Coltrane of the world, to Miles, to Thelonious, to, you can go on and on and on. Al Jarreau. I did. Cause I listen to so much, so I can't even like whittle that down into even 50 people. Like my would have to be a top 50 list of people if I was choosing anybody. Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. And just before we close out, bro, when all is said and done, what would you hope to accomplish with your work?
Well, I think I said something a couple years ago. At the time, I don't think a lot of people understood it, so I got some flack from it. I said, poetry isn't made to compete with, it's made to combine with, to save lives with. I put that down as a post, and then I guess people thought that I was knocking the slam poetry scene or the scene within poetry that competes and battles where there's a winner and a loser. I think that poetry and being able to, again, like I was just telling Miss Cynthia, to speak for those who can't speak for themselves, to go into a place where somebody may be, on the edge of committing suicide, and you speak life into people who have death all in and through them, and it helps them to carry on. It helps them to want to live another day through the messaging, that you put out there.
Right.
I remember, Tupac was good at that. He was great at that. Keep your head up. Changes.
True that.
Brenda's got a baby.
Yeah.
Good at diagnosing, looking at the struggle, telling us the stories of that struggle, but also, lending us a little bit of optimism and hope within that, and because otherwise it's like, if you're not doing that, then what are you doing with your art? If you're not out here trying to speak life, then what's the antithesis of that?
Mhm.
And I think we got to realize that we so much that we think we're doing for ourselves, it really isn't for us. Because we know the deal when we sit down and write. We know what we've seen, what we haven't. When you're going out in front of an audience, your work is for them. It's not for you. It's no longer yours. And I don't think a lot of people like to think of it that way. I didn't always used to think of it that way. I always said, I'm writing for myself. But the older I get, I realize that it's becoming farther from the truth, and that I have a greater responsibility. It's almost like when that commercial back in the day with Charles Barkley, he's like, I am not a role model. Parents should be role models. And that's true. But you got to understand there's so many eyeballs on you,
Yeah.
and you represent something that so many people aspire to. Like, so when we do poetry, people out there that's not really good at putting words together, they aspire to be able to articulate their feelings like that. And so you become a very centralized, popular figure, even if you weren't intended on being so. So we do have responsibility, and it is far, far reaching, the implications, that go into, the content of our work, the things we say, how we carry ourselves, and what we spew out into the universe. It comes back.
Exactly. I'm in full agreement. And that's part of, and all that is part of what we were talking about as far as leaving a legacy. How we carry ourselves and how we present ourselves as part of that legacy that we're leaving behind. And there's no question that's exactly what you're doing. You're telling your story, and you're controlling your narrative. And that's what makes the difference. Phenomenal work, bro. Phenomenal work. Where can you be found on social media?
Social media, I'm P _O _M _E POME on Instagram, Facebook, just my born name, Elliott Fant,
Mhm.
ELLIOTT, F as in Frank, ANT. And those are the only two that I'm on. I don't do Twitter, Threads, or none of that, man. Stick with them two. Social media really lately has become, obviously, for what we're trying to get done, it's necessary, but more and more, I'm becoming content with not being in there as much as only if I need to promote or market something now.
Right.
But I'm the older you get, you kind of have less to say. You just
True.
kind of sit back and be more observant.
True.
Yeah.
And as far as your latest book, The World as I See It, and your other books, how can our audience find your books?
Yes. My other two right now, I'm in the process of redistributing them, so they'll be here soon. To probably start the spring off. My first, both of those two are, about 100 pages each, soft cover. The World as I See It project can be found on evoluculture.com.
Mhm.
And you can go right into the website. The link is in my Instagram bio, and it's also my Facebook bio. So the links are attached to my social media accounts, or you can just directly go through your phone to evolucoach.com, and there's a Dropbox, and you'll see my book there. You'll be able to purchase it. The books are $30, $10 shipping. So if I ship to you, it'd probably be $40. 30 if I see you in person. Yeah, and the next two books, the Love Hurts, Love Heals, and POME Episode 1, they'll both probably be available around next November, next December time. So right before Christmas next year.
So that's what's up. That's excellent news, man. Excellent news. And all the best to you on that, man. So as we close out, ladies and gentlemen, there's just one more thing I need to do. And that is to say thank you. First and foremost, Elliott, aka Poem, bro. Thank you so much for coming through, man. Excellent conversation, dope conversation, and equally dope fire poetry. You know, you're truly telling stories, you're truly controlling your narrative, and you're displaying a high level of strength and resilience and determination, and you're just being yourself. And I'm a firm believer in being transparent, and I can see that transparency through your work and how you present yourself when you perform. So, bro, I wish you all the best. I wish you continued healing, continued prosperity, continued success with everything that you put your hands to, bro. You are truly an inspiration. And, you know, just thank you for just being a blessing with your light. You know what I mean? No question.
No, thank you, man. You creating platforms for artists. And in this landscape, you know, for independent artists, authors, anybody who's doing things themselves, putting their own money up with no backing, to find, you know, support networks and places to really get your name out there, those places are few and far in between, you know. Even in the landscape of, you know, media and podcasts is always, you know, forever changing and everything like that, you know. So anybody who takes their time to create a consistent platform for us, because if you're not a celebrity author, you know, you're just a person who just went out on their own buck and put something out, it's very hard for you, you know, in terms of, you know, selling books or selling whatever you sell, clothing, you know, to get that.
Yeah.
So you are a vehicle and an engine, you know, for all of us. And, you know, so that is how important you are. And you've always been a real kind dude. Every time I've seen you in person, you know, coming to shows, supporting people, you know, so you have a lot of great things that's going to come to you too, you know, if they haven't already, or they will continue to, because you know, there's no fluff about you. There's no agenda with what you're doing or why you're doing it, you know, so I know there's going to be a lot of beautiful things coming your way as well.
Yeah,
And I thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate the love and the support as well, man. I'm glad to be an inspiration and glad to experience you being an inspiration for me as well, man. Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for episode 15. We're going to be featuring another dope poet in their own right, Felix Guzman. That episode is going to be on Friday, February 16th, 2024 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, also on Zoom. For more information about Poets with Purpose or the P.W.P Sessions podcast, you can call me at 646-372-6230 or email me at poetswithpurpose@gmail.com. All of my logos and flyers were designed by the awesome team at Eclipse Graphics. You can find them on Instagram at @Eclipse Graphics NY to see samples of their work and get in touch with them if you want them to assist you with any of your projects. Lastly, for those of you interested in making a donation, you can do so through PayPal, Tap Media Man, $, Anointed Pen on Cash App, and through Zelly utilizing my phone number. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap on episode number 14. This episode will be uploaded to the Poets with Purpose YouTube channel within the next hour or so, so look out for that. So you'll be able to share the link on your social media channels. Elliott, Poem, bro, thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate the love and support. Thank you to my audience. Thank you to all of my supporters. Have a good evening and God bless. Thank you.
Brother, thank you.
Peace.
Peace.